Today, we're going to be checking out the Pepers pedal's Mage pedal. So this pedal is a bit of a redesign. This is an older pedal that Pepers Pedals used to make that was based on everyone's favorite terrible 90s practice amp, the Peavey Rage 158 Blue Stripe. And he had originally done this as the Fury pedal back in the day. And I believe Peavey ended up sending a cease and desist since he was, he had an homage to their branding and the original look of the amp, which I thought it looked awesome. I think it's kind of a downer that Peavey put the kibosh on that. But he has redesigned it in this smaller enclosure, which I think looks awesome. This is one of the coolest pedals when it's turned on with the Mage and the magic over him with the LEDs and his eyes glowing. I think it looks just awesome. So this pedal does function much the same as it did before. It is based on the Distortion from that old practice amp. It's solid state kind of 90s distortion, great for black metal and death metal. Plenty of black and death metal guys back in the early 90s did use these either as practice amps or even in the studio from time to time to get their sounds along with some other old Peavey practice amps. So it definitely captures that 90s tone of like 90s death metal and like early black metal. So I really dig it for that. So you have your gain, your volume, and then you have your 3-band EQ, as well as you have an internal volume control that when you turn it up allows you to use this thing as a preamp directly into a power amp section. On the website, it recommends you turn it up to 158%. And then, of course, if you're going to be using it as a distortion in front of the amp, it recommends that you turn that back down to normal. I'm going to be using this as a preamp into my KSR PA50. And we're going to hear that inside of a mix going into that power amp, going into my 2 Notes Captor X with a IR blend of my DV77 and VM1265. Then we'll hear it outside of a mix on that same setup. Let's check it out. So it really does capture that 90s solid state death metal, black metal kind of vibe and sound. Like I started playing on this and I immediately started, chugging away at some old school 90s riffs that I ended up using for the in mix here. And it is easily one of the coolest looking, if not the coolest looking LED setup on a pedal I have ever seen. I think this thing looks awesome. So this is one of Pepper's pedals' less known pedals, and I think that it definitely deserves more recognition, especially for fans of old school death and black metal, or maybe want to go take a trip down memory lane when they used to own one of those old Peaveys back in the 90s, or maybe make it even sound better, kind of like I did, sending it through a better power amp or better amplifier and speaker combination. In any regard, I think this is definitely worth checking out. It's a great preamp. It's a great distortion pedal. I'm going to have a link down below to that if you want to check that out, or anything else that Pepper's Pedals has to offer, and I do recommend it. He is one of my favorite builders going right now. He makes great stuff. High quality. It always sounds great, and he loves what he does. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Stay metal.